Hey up everybody, welcome back to the Audi Cycling YouTube channel, where today this is going to be the long format video. We did one of these for the Giro d'Italia and people seem to enjoy the more in-depth analysis that I provided during that video. So we're doing it again for this Tour de France VELOGAME competition. Of course it's not technically the Tour de France, but that's kind of like a technicality. So we are going to be talking about basically just the things which I am having kind of, I don't know, just conundrums which I am having, the general internal dialogue that I'm having whilst I'm trying to decide on who I'm going to be picking for my team. So sit back, relax, it's going to be like a 30-ish minute episode or something like that, because that's really all that the SD card can handle. So we're going to just be going through my team and just sort of anything which I am thinking about. So so hopefully we can all try and make some of the best teams possible. We're just going to be trying to be like devil's advocate and trying to just make a really good team. So at the moment, this is the team which I have. Maybe I should have just kept it on the previous screen, actually. Let me just do that again. So this is the team which I've got at the moment. It's by no means certain. I think that there are still some changes which I am thinking of making. There's a few teams which I'm sort of between, but we'll get into those. So that's the team which I've got at the moment. For my final team, I will be making a video tomorrow, so be sure to come back for that. But let's actually just go talk about some of the riders. So I guess the big thing is sort of, do you take Pogacar and Jonas Vingegaard? In theory, when you look back at previous competitions, previous years, when you see all the points which riders have, you see that Pogacar and Vingegaard are pretty consistently exceeding this remit that I set for riders, which is 100 points per rider credit. So Pogacar in 2021, 24 credits, and he therefore needed to get 2,400 points, and he exceeded that. Jonas far exceeded that as well, and then we also saw that last year with Pogacar exceeding it, and we saw Jonas exceeding it, and whatnot. So basically it is a good choice. You could go with both of them. Let's say a team which I would create for that, you'd have to take off Hindley, of course. Who you'd pick instead, I'd probably say like a Barguil or a Chavez, more than likely, are my favoured candidates, just because I do think that Barguil is perhaps a little bit underrated going into this race. He did the Giro this year, and we're seeing a lot of riders perhaps coming, well not a lot, but we're seeing some riders coming out of that Giro and still doing quite a good performance in like the Dauphiné and stuff like that. And I think that Barguil, he finished 16th in GC at the Giro, he came top 10 a couple of times, and he got about 500 points. So he was very close to the kind of remit of 100 points per rider credit, and I think it was 8 credits in that race. So, but anyway, Barguil I think is quite a good choice, so I might go with him. But I might also go for Chavez, who is talking about maybe going for the mountains classification. And I've already got Van Hills in my team. I think those are the best 6 credit riders in the climber category. And then I'd have to maybe take off Pidcock for somebody else, or I might have to take off Binney for maybe like a Christoph or something like that, or just another 6 credit rider. That would probably be the logical thing which I would do, because I think that Christoph is quite underrated at 6 credits. And then I'd probably have to take off either Pidcock down to an 8, or I'd take off Torstein Tlen for a 4 credit rider, just because I'm quite liking how I just think that Pidcock's going to do quite well in this race. That's just my opinion on it. I would be tempted to put on a 4 credit rider instead of Torstein Tlen. I want to go with Morkov, but for some reason I just can't find him. There he is. I'd maybe go with something like that. I think it's a pretty good team, considering that you got a few winners in this team. You got Pogacar, Vingegaard, Philipsen, Pidcock are kind of like your main guys, and then you're filling it out with guys who, they'll probably pick up a few hundred points. And this is a very logical team when you think about it, because you've got the 2 biggest GC riders who will probably between them get about 6,000 points, maybe a little bit more, and then you've got Philipsen, he should exceed 1,000 as a sprint, probably the fastest sprinter in the race. I think a lot of people are saying that. But also quite good at climbing, so he will compete in, say, I think it's like a stage 8, which is a little bit of a lumpier stage. So I reckon he could definitely get towards like 1,400, 1,500, maybe, kind of like similar to Cav in 2021. And you got Pidcock, who, yeah, I think Pidcock I'm just liking because stage 1, stage 2, I think especially stage 1, he should be competitive there. Ineos don't really have a big GC threat. You know, realistically, I think we can all agree Carlos Rodriguez is probably not going to be like podiuming this Tour de France. So I think they should allow Pidcock a little bit more freedom. Last year, he exceeded 1,000 points. When you look back to last year, he was the best unclassified rider. He got just over 1,000 points, and that was with, like, when you look at the amount of points that he got in stages, there was of course that stage which Pogacar won when Wout van Aert was in the break. You know, he did pretty good there, and then he of course won up Alpe d'Huez. But outside of that, you know, only a couple of other stage points, and you know, he just slowly accumulated points throughout the race. And I think that he could do something very similar, if not better, because he should do quite well on stage 1 and stage 2. I reckon he could maybe, you know, podium the first stage, and then he accumulates GC points. And where is he going to drop out of GC? Maybe stage 5, maybe stage 6 or something like that. But you know, he gets a few days, he'll get like at least 100 GC points probably in those first 4 days, as long as he's competitive. So I reckon he could get into the, you know, stage 5 and he could have somewhere near 400, 500 points. So he's already halfway there, and I think that he's going to be quite dangerous in a breakaway. So that's kind of my reasoning behind Pidcock. I have seen you guys talking about Van der Poel in my preview, and I do understand also going with him. I would probably argue that Van der Poel will do better than Pidcock in the first 2 stages. But then he will be working for Philipsen. I reckon Van der Poel will do quite well on stage 8 as well. Lots of breakaway stages where Van der Poel will do quite well, the medium mountain stages, and I'll get on to those in a second. But I think Van der Poel is also a good choice. If you could get both of them, you know, then by all means that's pretty good. But I guess the next thing which I want to talk about is the unclassified riders. And tell me if you guys are struggling with the same thing or not, but I'm struggling to find 6 credit riders which I really like. I do stick by that I do like Torstein Tlen, because he did good in GC at the Dauphiné, so I think that one makes a lot of sense. But outside of him, I'm seeing a lot of riders who are very good over medium mountains. I'm talking about, you know, Quinn Simmons, Nick Schultz, Mohoric, Victor Lefay, Fraile, Aincorn, Simon Clark, Fred Wright, Bettiol, etc, etc. But I'm not seeing a massive amount of stages which suit those sorts of riders. And tell me if I'm wrong, because I am more than happy to be proven wrong in this sense, because I'm just trying to create the best team. But in terms of those medium mountain breakaway stages, right, I'm seeing stage 10 is going to be one of those stages. Stage 12 as well, for sure. But I don't know, am I missing something? Stage 19, but I just consider a lot of these stages to be very mountainous and too hard for the likes of those riders to be really competitive towards the finish. I don't know, am I missing something? I just think that maybe people are getting caught up in, you know, previous performances and not perhaps thinking about the opportunities which these riders have in this race. I don't know, I just don't see there being too many. So I'm looking towards as many climbers as I can, really. I do think that, you know, the best 6-point riders, you know, maybe Champers, but he hasn't looked too great. Victor Lefay, I'm also a big fan of, because he's quite a good puncher. I reckon he could do quite good in the first stage and then get a couple of GC points after that as well. But Tejada maybe, but I don't know. I'm just not seeing too many guys. Zongler, I think, will just be lead out for Coquard. So I don't see the stages where Coquard will not be there, but Zongler will. I think they're a very similar style of rider. But yeah, I don't know. The 4 credit riders, I do think that I am still a fan of Nons Peters. Just, he's won a Tour de France stage in the past. AG2R, in their website, their kind of preview where they're going through each rider. They seem to suggest that Peters will have his own opportunities in this race, unlike some other riders who will just be chained to Ben O'Connor throughout the whole time. I do also like Michal Morkov, because when you look back to 2021, which I have up here, when you look at the 4 credit riders, Morkov did get over 400 points because he just accidentally, or whatever, just got top 10s. He got 2 top 10s because he was leading out Cav in that astounding year. He also is kind of up there in some of the sprints. He was up there in the sprints classification, gets some assist points, and I think that there's enough flat stages where Morkov could certainly sneak inside the top 10 a couple of times. So that's kind of another 4 credit rider which I'm liking. But I don't know, you could go VELOGAME for the assist points on Pogacar, I guess, and Adam Yates possibly. But yeah, I don't know, the 4 credit riders aren't amazing, let's say. Maybe Calmajan as well, actually. You know, he's won a stage of a tour in the past too. But yeah, I don't know. There aren't too many which are really jumping out on me. Anthony Perez does get him a break an awful lot as well, to be fair. But yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of I don't think there's a lot of stages which are suited towards those sort of rouleur types. Just I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm missing something, but anyway, that is what it is. So yeah, this is a team which I could go for if you wanted just the 2 big favourites. However, although that makes a lot of sense, I don't know. Something's telling me that you could get more points through spreading your points out a bit more evenly. So rather than Vingegaard, you know, you've got Mas. I probably won't choose Mas, to be honest with you. I think he does good at the Vuelta, the Tour. I'm not as confident. O'Connor, I think, is a good choice. I reckon he could certainly go for the podium. But it's worth mentioning that in terms of a standpoint from the pure efficiency, when you look back to last year and the points which riders are accumulating, so in terms of this 100 points per rider credit, if O'Connor is 14 credits, he needs to get 1,400 points, and there were only 5 riders which exceeded that last year. Philipsen got very close, to be fair. So Gaudu, who finished in 4th place, that's pretty much saying that O'Connor needs to finish 4th place or above, needs to be competitive in a lot of stages. I think that is quite a likely thing to happen. I am also kind of toing and froing between Hindley or not as well, just because he's 16 credits. That means he needs to get an extra 200 points, and I'm just like, is that going to happen? I don't really know. I think there's just a lot of riders that you can choose from, to be honest, that could do a good job. I'm not certain on Skelmoser, just because as a Grand Tour debutant, like I was just saying, only 5 riders exceeded 1,400 points last year. Skelmoser as a Grand Tour debutant, I'm not sure what to expect from him in GC. I know he's done good in stage races, but that doesn't always correlate to a good Grand Tour performance. So Skelmoser is a bit of an odd one for me. I would rather choose O'Connor as somebody who's been up there and in GC before. That's just my opinion. I think it's just a bit safer. However exciting Skelmoser is, I just think that 14 credits is too much for me in this race. So I wouldn't be choosing him, especially when you've got guys who are, you know, favourites for top 5, like a Carapaz and a Yates. Especially Yates, there's a lot of talk about him. He'll get assist points for Pogacar, of course, but he could finish top 5. And in terms of riders who've got more than 1,200 points, you know, I don't know, you're getting guys like Quintana. Yates last year at the very same price, despite the fact that he finished, what was it, 9th in GC? 8th, 9th? He got 1,100 points, so he was very close last year to doing really well, in my opinion. So do I think that he could do better than he did last year? Yes, I do think that is possible. So I think that he could get 1,200, 300, 400 points, and I think that, you know, he could be very much worthwhile at that point. He'll be in a very similar scenario because him and G were co-leaders last year, so therefore I do think that he will get a similar amount of points, and therefore I do think that he could be very worthwhile. You've also got guys like, you know, the guys like Quintana and Bardet last year, they all got over 1,000 points. So you generally find that these guys who are like 12, 10, 8 credits are usually the guys who provide the best value for money in terms of how much you're going to get return, in terms of how much they cost. So I think that Yates I'm a big fan of. Carapaz I'm not as certain about. Since joining EF, he just hasn't been hitting the mark, to be honest. And I'm just not willing to gamble on somebody who wasn't performing at the Dauphiné, especially since at the very same cost I can get Adam Yates, who finished second at the Dauphiné, and I'd rather just take the safer option, to be honest. I think that's just a more logical thing to do. Saying that, Carapaz could very much come out of the woodwork, score a load of points, but he's only selected by like 5% of people, and you could absolutely rocket up the leaderboard. So that's kind of the risk reward that you go through. Bernal and Martinez, for the love of God, don't pick them, because I just don't see it happening. However much it'd been cool for Bernal, I reckon maybe he scrapes the top 10, realistically a top 15, but it's just not worth it for a 10 credit rider. You need somebody who's going to be up there for certain fighting in GC. I just don't think, or at least in the breakaway, an absolute shit ton. Bilbao I like. Think back to Giro Stage 1 last year, won by Mathieu van der Poel, then Binny, and I swear it was Bilbao in 3rd or 4th place in that stage. So he is a pretty good puncher. I reckon he'll be very, very motivated on Stage 1. And I think that Bilbao could maybe top 5 that first stage, at least top 10. And, you know, he'll probably finish top 10 in GC. He'll accumulate those points pretty consistently throughout the race. He might even get into a breakaway or two as the race develops into the 3rd week. And we've seen Bilbao cost 10, 12 credits in the past, and he's usually worth it. He's just a Mr. Consistent, kind of like what Caruso was in the Giro this year. I sort of see Bilbao doing a very similar job in that sense. So I think that Bilbao is a good choice. I would say that my second favourite 8 credit rider is Lutsenko. We saw last year that Lutsenko got 758 points, despite the fact that he didn't do like an awful lot. He only really came into it in the 3rd week, where he got some good stage results. He finished up in the top 10 in GC. So you don't need to be doing anything spectacular to really be hitting towards 600 to 800 points as somebody who's a fringe GC prospect. So I think that Lutsenko is pretty good, and similarly that's why I think that Bilbao's quite good. Jorgensen I don't know what to expect from him in GC, but I reckon that he could get in some breakaways. There's rumours of him leaving the team, so what his motivation is going to be like to help Mass, I don't really know. But I do think that Jorgensen, top 15 in GC, but I would rather take a Lutsenko or a Bilbao from a safety standpoint, just because Jorgensen wasn't really there in the Dauphiné. I'm not sure if that was just a planned thing and they were working for Mass, but he has looked good this year. So if you were looking for somebody who's perhaps a little bit more of a differential pick, I reckon that Jorgensen might be a good one. And then the other guys are just a bit naff, to be honest with you. So I probably won't go with them. But yeah, the team which I'm kind of at the moment is a bit like this, where I've got Hindley in there, and I've got those points on Christoph, and I've got Binny in there, I think. And then I had, instead of Morkuv, I've got Torstein Tlen. So that's kind of where I'm at the moment. But in terms of other teams which I'm thinking of going with, so I'm tempted to not pick Hindley, and I'm tempted to try and get Wout van Aert on. So that would be, I don't go with Hindley, I go with a Ciccone or a Simon Yates. Let's just say Simon Yates for now. And instead of Binny, I go with Wout van Aert. Something like that. Wout van Aert, of course, last year got, 2,900 points, which is just insane. Of course, he has stated, whether it's a red herring or not, that he isn't really going for green as heavily this year, but he is still going to be competing for stages. Is Wout van Aert still somebody who could win 2-3 stages in this race? Yes, he absolutely is. So I would like to have him on my team, but I'm also thinking for 6 credits more, is he going to be doing categorically better than Binyam Girmay by a substantial level, to the point where he gets 600 points more? It's worth. And of course, Wout van Aert last year had the benefit where the two TTs, where he finished second in one and first in another, that's 400 points. So he doesn't really have that benefit, especially since the TT isn't massively tailored towards him. Like, he'll still do well, but he's not hugely suited towards it as in comparison to the ones from last year. So is Wout van Aert worthwhile trying to get onto my team? I don't really know. It basically does leave me with just Pogačar as my GC rider. I don't know really what to expect from Simon Yates. He suggests, well, their press release, Jaco Alula, say that he's going for stages, and he'll probably also, as a consequence of that, end up high up in the mountains classification. I reckon he'll probably get around 1,000 points, to be honest with you. My question is really with Hindley as a 16 credit rider. He is the most expensive GC rider outside of Pogačar and Vingegaard, which means that Hindley doesn't really have that much room for error. Like, he needs to be up there performing all the time, pretty much always just the guy behind Vingegaard and Pogačar, which, don't get me wrong, I think is a very likely possibility to be happening. But something's telling me that, you know, if anything goes wrong, if he's for some reason not firing on all cylinders, kind of similar to like the Vuelta last year, for example, then all of a sudden, then you've wasted credits. Last year, third place, Wout van Aert, Geraint Thomas, not Wout van Aert, although let's face it, Wout van Aert maybe could have done. Geraint Thomas got 2,000 points. He cost 14 points though. So, you know, if you minus off the TT result that he got on that second to last stage, that's like 1,900 points. And that's like, if Hindley got, say, 1,800, 1,700, yes, he is worth it at that point. But, you know, there's not that much room for error is my concern with him. Do I think that, you know, Ciccone at 10, could he be quite competitive in stage 1? I think he could be, considering that Ciccone has looked really good this year. And Ciccone is really good at breakaways. He's also very good at competing in the polka dot jerseys. He won the polka dot jersey in the recent Criterium de Dauphiné. He won the final stage from a breakaway. Ciccone could finish maybe top 10 GC just accidentally, and also finish quite high up in some stages. Yeah, but I think he could be competitive stage 1. We've seen him being just in better form this year than ever before. I think very competitive in a lot of GC. You know, think back to Catalunya, and I think it was like Valenciana that he was competitive in as well. He finished 11th in GC at the Dauphiné. So Ciccone I'm kind of high on. I think him and Yates are very similar in terms of goals in this race. So those two are ones which I'm definitely considering. I think that they could both get over 1,000 points. I'm just thinking back to last year. You know, look how many riders there are who are getting around 1,000 points, who are around that 10 credit mark. You got Quintana, you got Yates, Vlasov, Pidcock, Bardet, Pedersen, Laporte, Powers. You know, riders. There's quite a few riders who are getting around 1,000 points, and I think that Yates and Ciccone will get somewhere near there. But yeah, I do like Van Hills. I think that he could finish top 10, maybe top 5 on that first stage if things go really well. But then I am a little bit concerned about his climbing ability later on. I think that he's a really good puncher, but how is he going to go on the pure, more like alpine stuff? I'm not really too sure. So is he going to be really good in the first week and then not really do too much? But the benefit is that Lotto Destiny don't have a lot of climbers in this race, so therefore Van Hills will be looked to get the break quite a bit more. So his likelihood of going in the breakaway for Lotto Destiny is a bit higher than, you know, say, you know, Trek or something like that, who have Quinn Simmons, Ciccone, and who else? Who's the other guy? Skelmosa, or EF, who have Paulus, Aran, Magnus, Cort Nielsen, Chavez, Betty, or, you know, everybody's going in the breakaway there. So his likelihood of being in the breakaway is quite strong. But so that's kind of an iteration of a team which I'm tempted to go with. The other one would be, maybe I don't go with Wout van Aert in this slot. I instead go back to a Bini or something like that, and I put those points into Van Hills to get Ciccone into the team. And then with these 2 extra points, I can do a few things. I could turn Binney into a 14 credit rider. I could reassure a GC position by going with O'Connor, or I could go with a sprinter in Pedersen. My concern is that because if I pick Pedersen, right, Pedersen, let's say, likely to be competitive in 7 or 8 stages, very similar to Philipsen, right? 7 or 8 stages, maybe, you know, he probably won't get any GC points in the first day. I reckon he'll get dropped, but could he finish top 5 in like most sprints? Pretty much is what I'm thinking. What has happened to my screen here? Anyway, whatever. In terms of this, yeah, so if Pedersen finishes top 5, say he gets 150 points for each sprint, times that by 8, all of a sudden you've got 1,200 points. You get the points classification things, you get the intermediate sprints, breakaways, the end of tour classification points. He maybe gets near 1,400 points. O'Connor, on the other hand, you know, you do tend to find that the GC riders are the ones who score highly. You know, look back to years gone by. If you look to the top, let's take the top 10 riders. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You've got what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 of those are GC riders. So on average, the riders who get the most points in the Tour de France are the GC riders, which then makes me think, well, is Pedersen the correct choice then? Should I just instead be going with O'Connor? But then at that point I'm like, O'Connor versus Hindley, you know, should I take off Torstein Tlen and go with a 4 credit rider like Morkov and then put on Hindley as a wild card? So let's put that in. So like instead of O'Connor, I get Hindley in there. So all of a sudden I then have my Pogačar and a Hindley, Yates and Ciccone as maybe GC options, but also going for breakaways. Bilbao very similarly. Pidcock for the first opening stages and then breakaways, and maybe like a top 20 GC. Philipsen. The only downside is that now I am down to 1 sprinter, but is that necessarily a bad thing? Because in theory, you know, the sprinters will accumulate a lot of points because, you know, the sprinters, there's a limited number of them, so they generally tend to pop up a lot in the sprint stages. But the end of tour points are lower because, you know, you get 120. Take a look at the scoring system. When you go to the end of tour points, you get a lower amount of points. So GC, you get 120 points for finishing 13th in GC, and for winning the points classification you get 120 points. So finishing 13th in GC is the same number of points as finishing first in the points classification. Furthermore, at the end of every day, and you get those points for the daily classification. So 12th. So if you're first in the points classification, you get 12, versus if you're 9th in GC, you get the same amount. So accumulated, you get more for the GC because the points are just favoured in that sense. Say there are 6 or 7 sprint stages, you know, if you have a correct sprinter, you know, they finish top 5 in most of those. Sprinters don't tend to win all the time, you know, there's a bit of a lottery aspect in terms of who does well. So is it safer to go with a GC rider who will compete in 7 or 6 stages? So less stages competed in, but overall at the end of the tour, rather than getting 120 points for winning, instead they get like 200 odd, 300 odd for where they finish. I don't know. That's kind of the conundrum that I'm in, is I want to take 2 sprinters, but am I just being too single-minded because there are so many sprint stages that I feel like I need to have the sprinters because otherwise I'm missing out? Whereas it's not about the number of stages that somebody can compete in, it's the number of points which they're going to be getting overall at the end of a race. And that might not necessarily be the sprinters, especially if history is anything to go by, whereby, like I said, 7 of the 10 riders from last year, you know, if you were to extend it 1 down and say it's actually 8 of 11, if you were to include Bardet in there as well. You know, Pidcock was a little bit of a maverick one in there, but you know, the Wout van Aert and Philipsen were the only sprinters, like the pure sprinters in there, who really exceeded, who were like breaching the boundary there. I just realised I'll put this one on extra tab. So even when you look back to 2000 and bring that tab back up here. I don't know why this has gone onto an extra tab. Anyway, when you look back to 2021 and the points which are done here, let's do something similar. Let's take the top 10 riders. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's a little bit different, I suppose, because you've got Alaphilippe there, who's sort of the Pidcock in this part. But then you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 GC riders. You've got Wout van Aert, Cav, Philipsen, and Matthews in there as sprinters. So maybe you do go with sprinters again. Maybe that's what you do. How many sprints were let's say Philipsen competing in this race? So he competed in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sprints where he on average finished, what's this, 180 is second, so that's second, third, second, third, third and second. So that's very consistent, and he got, from those 6 sprints, he got, oh, the points have gone. He got 1,261. So say he competes in another 2 sprints where on average he finishes, like gets 150, then he gets about 1,500, 1,600 odd. So maybe he is worth it. I think Philipsen's worth it. It's whether like Binny's worth it or whether I'm putting a GC rider. So that's kind of a conundrum that I'm really in at the moment. So I'm between a team where I go with both Vingegaard and Pogačar, which would be, so Jonas goes in, Hindley comes out for a Wawa or something like that, and then I take out Girmay for Christoph. I know this is going to take a while, but it's just kind of, I just kind of want to do this. So I take him out for Christoph, and then I take maybe Torstein Tlen out for Michal Morkov, like that. I could not go with Vingegaard. I can take him out and go back to Bilbao. I then put points into Barguil to get, not Landa, Ciccone, and Van Hills to get Simon Yates. And then I go with, instead of Christoph, I go with O'Connor / Pedersen, whoever. And then I put the points back into Morkov to get Torstein Tlen. Or I take the points off of Simon Yates or Ciccone, go with Van Hills, put those points into O'Connor and get Wout van Aert. Those are sort of the 3 teams that I'm between. So there are a few riders which are consistently staying in here, which is Pogačar, Philipsen, Pidcock and Nons Peters. Those are the guys who I'm going with. If you're wondering about Peters, why I'm kind of keen on him, I don't know. Peters only really needs to get him a break and finish like top 5 2 times, maybe 3, maybe like 2 times. I'm not really expecting him to breach 400 points is the thing. I just need somebody in there. Could Peters finish top 5 2 times in a couple of stages? I reckon he probably could. He was pretty good at French national champs. He's actually been pretty good this year. He won an Italian one-day race. I just think that he's pretty good. I could go with Morkov instead if I was more hedging my bets on the sprinters, on average doing better. So those are sort of the 3 teams that I'm between. Pogačar and Vingegaard. Not going with Vingegaard, but putting in Wout van Aert in there, or removing Wout van Aert, going with, who was it? Going with like an O'Connor, and then instead of Van Hills, I go with Ciccone. So yeah, there's a few teams which I am between. I think they're all relatively similar, apart from, of course, Vingegaard. Anyway, so yeah, that's that's pretty much it. The GoPro literally just overheated, so I'm going to round this up now. Let me know what you're thinking all in the comments down below. Be sure to put any opinions, thoughts, whatever, help each other out in the comments down below. And of course, I will be posting who I'm selecting for my team in tomorrow's video, so be sure to subscribe and stick around for that. And all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, enjoy the Tour de France, and I'll see you in the next video. Salut!